This was a really good movie. Perfect for what I was looking for at the time, an edgy and dark, but still light, modern movie. I love that it has a female lead. It's Gen Z/young millennial with the hairstyles and the wardrobe and the cast and the vocabulary. It's about a young woman from Australia named Cecilia who is weirdly called Sissy, not sure about the inspiration behind that, but okay. She's a pretty big influencer, who's empty and depressed behind the glitz and glamour of social media. She has 200k followers, yet none of her friends know, which is unrealistic at best. Her former childhood bestie M is having a bachelorette party, and Sissy gets invited to M's lack of forethought, or any kind of thought at all. Her partner Fran, who's a snob, comes to the party, and her friends, who are weird and unattractive to be honest, and someone who Sissy literally scarred like 10 years ago, and this person Alex hates Sissy to this day. Imagine if someone who scarred your face shows up at a party like it's all good. However, Alex was just a bitch. Yes, you should hate Sissy, but you either kick her out, scar her ass back, or just get over it and move on and have a fun night. But instead Alex is just a bitch, bringing the mean girl high school attitude, and that was annoying. It had a quirky vibe to it, an ironic opening title, background music for fairy tales, and colorful glittery, shimmery makeup that's similar to Euphoria, which I like. It had at times anachronistic fashion and mise-en-scène that I also liked. There was definitely a film school, college project to this that I liked, and the director is female, which is also notable. There's comedy like Amelie, if you've seen that movie. A self-deprecating social awkwardness that makes Sissy relatable and an anti-villain. There's a scene similar to Get Out where they hit an animal on the road, and in Get Out it was an open-ended symbolism, but here it literally tied into a fate for Fran that was pretty class A on Sissy's part. The murders otherwise had as much thrill as a Lifetime movie, if that. I didn't know what to expect going into the film. I was browsing aimlessly and clicked on it. So I thought Sissy would pull through and that at most this movie would just be about a very weird girl during a party. But it turned into a bloody mess. If I repeat anything in this review, it's because I stand on what I say, but really because I stop and come back to edit and add things so I forget what I mentioned already, but yeah. Anyway, it was painful in the meantime to see Sissy struggle to mesh and socialize during the party. Tough spot for M to have a psycho as a friend and a bitch as another, who also hate each other. Best bet is to invite neither of them, or just one. So I found M, whose actress is also the director of the movie, to be selfishly oblivious and not someone I'd want to be friends with. You invite someone into a shitty, potentially dangerous situation on both sides, and then dump them and wander off. Yes, you're the bride-to-be and you shouldn't be babysitting everyone else's emotions in the meantime, but still. You should want a good vibe, and this was not it. Ever been a third wheel? Sissy was like the 10th wheel or something. Sucky. I can see why she'd snap and start slashing people, especially if they're snobby. No one went up to her to ask how she was, which could either be a flaw with the script, or a character flaw that was intentional. Hard to tell. But it certainly did not make me want them to survive or anything. If anything, Alex's participation in the film and the party was underwhelming. She should have voted Sissy out of the party. And then I could see why Sissy would snap, as a plot driver. I see why Sissy snapped, but only as a character interpretation. The movie didn't explain or lead up to it well. Yes, she kind of found herself on a domino effect with how Alex ended up after messing with Sissy, and so there was no turning back for Sissy. I hate to be vague. Sissy basically becomes the slasher is all I'll say. Great to pass the time, great to watch at any time of day because it's really not scary. It's more of a horror comedy, though it wasn't laugh-out-loud funny or a parody, it was semi-satirical, and really, a horror comedy is just a horror movie that isn't scary intentionally or unintentionally so. Next up is The Royal Hotel. Again, an Aussie film that I happened across while browsing for movies with female leads that are edgy but light, and modern. I didn't know at first until later that this is based on a true story, but this movie was far less interesting than the actual story. The actual story is a documentary from a long time ago about female travelers who went to a remote inn, somewhere in Australia, living on the edge really. And apparently those women recorded being actually harassed or something by the less than domesticated and barely civilized men in the remote desert village. Not sure how the real story ended, but this one ended less than realistically, and it really didn't have to end up like that. There was no horror, no action, no nothing, just two girls. One is Hannah, who ebb and flows back and forth between up for it and ready to go home wherever that is, and the other is Liv, who is less so a party animal and more so just has some unspoken, uncovered issues. The film was a whole letdown. I watched it ready for a good time and kept waiting. And waiting. And waiting. The best part was how fucking hot James Freshville looked. He looks absolutely amazing with his head shaved, mouth-watering literally. But he's very and disappointingly underused this whole film. I ended up just watching for him, and then when he barely shows up I was wondering why I'm here. So what happened is that these two girls backpack and take odd jobs along the way, is what I understood. They do some temp work in Australia with placement jobs. I don't think it's Peace Corps. But maybe it is. Yet I don't think Peace Corps would drop them off to work at a hotel. Normally, that's for important work, the Peace Corps. It seems they just suddenly needed money and applied to the only job they could get. They get dumped in the middle of nowhere. And replace two drunken British spinsters who don't foreshadow anything. They don't leave advice, they don't leave a warning, they don't hold meaningful eye contact. They don't hold conversation. They just leave. The only thing I got from it is that they fucked their way through, and that could foretell that Hannah and Liv would have to do the same, and they weren't down for that, which is stupid. There's a bar full of hot sexy guys, and they are acting like a bunch of hard-up lesbians. Hard-up lesbians is fine, but they aren't hard-up lesbians. I'm just confused why they are down for anything but not down for anything, and so imagine how those guys felt. There was only one guy who sucked, but he didn't do anything. He didn't try to do anything. He just rubbed Hannah the wrong way. He got a little shirty and leery when he drank, which is nothing. It's a weak POV of what it is to be a woman, single and traveling, in an environment predominantly of men. But it's a very, very weak and pointless perspective. My everyday life going to Walmart is more of a better and interesting example of that. Australia's film industry sucks balls, to be honest, which is sad because Australia is such a cool looking country with diversity and so much potential for movies and telly, and it just doesn't happen. Anyone who is successful in Australia just bounced to UK or America or Canada to quote, make it. That could be the issue, I don't know. There was no plot, no soundtrack, boring clothes, nothing eye-popping as far as imagery. A very brown color palette. Hugo Weaving played a drunken bar owner, his wife was hella miscasted and played the helpless martyr maid. The action was non-existent. I didn't feel the vibe of them being scared and stranded at all. I can't intellectualize the situation. But the movie just didn't do it. The lead actress rubs my tits the wrong way, couldn't stand her. She looks like a mix between an America's Next Top Model hopeful and Jaden Smith. There was a guy her character Hannah had a weird thing with. She flirted with him, she really did. She went places with him, pillow talked with him, pretty much acted like a girlfriend until it came time to have sex, and suddenly she switches, which is fine and her right. But frustrating as a viewer simply to understand what the fuck is going on and why they made a movie. If the girls were literally going to do nothing, yet the guys did nothing as well. If she refuses sex, then have the guys be real villains, make this a real horror movie. The guys were barely assholes, to be honest. Lewd humor is the worst thing they did. Honestly. Hannah and Liv chose to be there, anyway. It's not a real workplace. You're encroaching on their way of life and having a bad attitude. I'd get the hell out. Hitchhike, which they ended up doing in the end anyway. So why not have done it an hour earlier when Hannah started begging Liv to leave? I don't know. Lame. Well acted though. Well directed. just badly written. 3 stars for passing the time and 1 star as a thriller and a movie in general.